Hi everyone, welcome to a new video in the channel. This time we're going to be comparing two of the best CPUs from AMD and Intel. From AMD we have the 5900X and from Intel we have the 12900K. Now that the Ryzen 7000 launch is just around the corner, we're gonna be having this comparison also to be useful in the future to compare against this new Ryzen 7000. And also we are already seeing some leaks about the 13th generation from Intel, so we're gonna be working into that also. And as we see in some previous video, Windows 11 is no longer having any performance issues with AMD, so all the tests are gonna be done in Windows 11. So then let's go to the benchmarks. Starting with the Crystal Disk test, we see a considerable advantage for Intel. In the sequential read test, the gain for the 12900K is only 2% when using one task and 8% when using 8 tasks. Moving to the random read, the gain with one task is 4% and with 32 tasks, the performance increase is 61%. Now the sequential writing gain is 24% with one task and 18% with 8 tasks. And to finish the random write test, with one task the gain is 42% and with 32 tasks the gain is 122%. Going into the 7-zip test, Intel still wins with a 30% performance gain when compressing, even though the gain when decompressing is just 1%. In Cinebench, we can see gains of 61% in single core and 37% in multicore for the 12900K. In Blender, we see an improvement on the Intel side of 28% in the CPU test and 4% in the CUDA test, although the optic test has a tie with the 5900X. In the bitrate test, Intel beats AMD in the CPU test by 29% and 3% in the RTX test, although they tie in the CUDA test. Starting with games, we have Civilization 6, where the 12900K improves the average frames per second by 16% and the 1% low by 13% in the graphic test. And in the AI test, it improves by 19%. In Metro Exodus at 4K with ray tracing and DLSS activated in the quality option, we see that the average frame per second is dependent on the GPU, although the 12900K achieves a small increase in the 1% low of 12%. Now at 1080p medium quality without ray tracing or DLSS, we see a small gain for the 12900K of 6% in both the average frames per second and the 1% low. Now moving to the Rainbow Six Siege test, we see something interesting, and that's because in the 4K test AMD wins. First, we have the test with DLSS active on the quality option, and we see that the 12900K has a loss of 9% in the average frame per second and 5% in the 1% low. Although in the test without DLSS, the loss is only 3% in average frames per second and 2% in the 1% low. Now in the test at 1080p, the Intel processor wins again, improving the average frames per second by 11% and 13% in the 1% low. Horizon Zero Dawn at 4K ultimate quality is also limited by the GPU, but we can also see the small error in the 1% low for the Intel CPU that we saw in a previous video when we were comparing Windows 10 and Windows 11 using the 12900K. Now at 1080p original quality, we see small improvements in the 12900K with almost 8% in the average frames per second, although we still see the problem with the 1% low. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider at 4K ultra quality with ray tracing active, the average frames per second are the same in both processors, although we see a small improvement in the CPU response times in the 12900K. Again in ultra quality with ray tracing active, but now in 1080p, we see a 12% improvement in the average frames per second. And now at 1080p medium quality without ray tracing, we can see a 18% improvement in the average frames per second for the Intel CPU. Well, as we could see, the 12900K is superior to the 5900X. And we decided to compare these two because the 5950X from AMD has 32 threads and this i9 only has 24 threads. That is the same number of threads that the 5900X has. And also we have saw that in some single core tests the 5900X has even better scores than the 5950X. So that is why we choose to do this comparison. And well, here you have the results, and yes, the i9 is far superior, but also it's newer and it's probably more expensive. It depends on when you see this video, but both are great choices. And in these benchmarks we also could see that depending of the applications that you are running, like in most games in high resolution, both of the CPUs behave basically the same because the bottleneck is on the GPU. But if you want to play in lower resolutions or higher FPS, then yes, the Intel option is better for now. And we are also going to compare this against the new Ryzen 7000 that are just launching. So subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss that, and we'll see you in the next video.